You're opening. Sorry. I ruined it. No! Don't talk. You're not allowed to talk. This is my video. Don't say anything.
What the frick frack diddly dack paddywhack snick snack crack pack slack knack quarterback crackerjack biofeedback backtrack thumbtack sidetrack tic tac does she think she is doing?
Hello everyone, my name's Vox.
Oh.
with here sorta with Chew, and welcome back to Forum Friday. First up in the comments we have, my window is gone. Oh, IAH said, great video, nice job, keep it up, Ebos. Thank you very much. And why did I close the window? Chew. Medieval Ghost says, new subscriber, like your tutorial videos, keep it up. Thank you. So last week we asked you all, Chew was here, sorta. Just like
I thought you said Jew.
Chew is a Jew. Huh. I asked you all about Greenlight in early access on Steam.
He's looking at me like I have something to say, but this is really more of his subject.
You said it was your video, so...
Oh, well, you know, I was just talking shit.
Okay. So, and they're really two separate topics, or not necessarily topics, but two separate concepts. Greenlight on Steam is the process, not necessarily like Kickstarter, but of just basically, you have to be approved to release a game on Steam, so you have to have... So they made it to where indie developers can put up their game concepts and be approved to release their game on Steam when it's ready. And then early access is the ability for developers to put up their unfinished games and charge people to play them in the unfinished state, being that they would have the full release when the game's actually released, if that ever happens. So far with the biggest and most anticipated early access games, they never actually got finished, and most of them got abandoned, and most of them turned into big drama scenes. Jumping to the comments. Vespertine wrote me a book and said...
We appreciate it, Vespi.
No,
it's okay.
I told him on
bad.
Twitter I appreciate it. He said, I don't really mind early access. A company isn't going to continue releasing games in alpha if no one will buy into it. To me, it's similar to the Sims 3 controversy. The fan of The Sims will keep buying pointless expansions that should have already been in the game, like seasons that add weather to a life simulator. So EA/Maxis, whoever comes up with the type of expansions that will come out, will continue to milk us. Essentially, The Sims 3 base was an unfinished game with expansions masked as expansions that honestly should have already been in the game. Which makes me think about early access. People are always looking for the newest and coolest games, and the earlier they can get in, the better. If people are willing to spend the money, the game companies will keep pumping out titles with early access on Steam. I've bought one early access game that never got finished and is basically hanging in the balance. I didn't do proper research and that was my fault, but now I'm a lot more careful in looking at early access games. And depending on the price, I might even buy in. When games sell early access for high prices such as $60, it becomes very unappealing. Though in the same respect, most games that offer early access state you own it after release. So I like to look at early access with a few ideas in mind. Do I trust this company? Is this an IP I'm familiar with? And do I think the price will increase when the game releases? If I were super excited for a game, let's say The Witcher 3, and they offered early access for full price but I own the game forever, I'd probably buy in just to experience the world and get my fix. CD Projekt Red is a group of devs I trust to complete a game, and I know the Witcher IP. I guess my final thoughts about early access is if people want to buy into it, why not have it as an option? If you don't want an unfinished game, don't buy it, it'll be there after release. And if not, well, you just save some money. Sorry for the wall of text cryface. It's okay. Mr. Roast Biden says something about Dragon Age. I'm not exactly what specifically he's referring to, however.
I think he was talking about his last comment from the other video.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, that makes sense. But as far as Steam, perhaps a pay-as-you-go system is in order, like have the price they want for the end product and you make small installment payments as features are added and the game gets improved. He'd really like our opinions on this. And then Nate Con Movie Maker says boxers, because we asked boxers a brief as well. I forgot about that. Drew asked that actually.
Were you wondering why that was at the top of the comment?
Yeah. Took me a minute. I feel like the Greenlight games. It is up to the user to know whether or not it's worth the price tag to them. I do believe Steam should require certain time requirements for development to ensure that everything that is advertised to be in the game in the future is actually finished. Okay. Ow.
Good job.
I hit the mic. Alright, so that was actually something that's been discussed before, is time restrictions. However, no one other than really bad publishers such as EA or Activision puts time restrictions on games, because as we know, when AAA games come out when they had time restrictions placed on them and they come out pre-finished, like, oh, I don't know, Battlefield 4 and its amazing launch, bad things happen. And for an indie dev who probably is doing it while also doing their full-time job, it's not really fair, in my opinion. And we're going to kind of bounce back and forth on some of these points because a lot of people make multiple points here. An issue I have with Vespatine's approach, I guess, because it's a smart way of going about it. But the issue is, and I don't know if anybody's watched Total Biscuit's videos or anybody else who's kind of looked at the indie scene on Steam, it's not really big, for the most part, it's not really big companies or, CD Projekt Red with The Witcher isn't going to put The Witcher on early access. It's mostly indie developers or very small game development houses looking to get a bit of extra money for finishing their game while they finish it. Once they get it to a pseudo-playable state, if they need money to finish it, that's their way of getting the money in lieu of like Kickstarter or something. And granted, it's a bit better than a Kickstarter, I suppose, because instead of just waiting for it to magically hopefully get funded or finished and then getting some reward or a copy of the game, you actually get to play it as it develops. So that's a bit better. However, rarely is it going to be a developer or IP that you know or trust, because most of them you'll never have heard of before, because this is probably their only game. And so the thinking there kind of stops working out when it's like, oh, have I heard of them? Do I trust them? Well, no. This is their first project, which is why they're on early access. So,
Well, that's exactly why I think that a Kickstarter would sometimes be better than an early access sort of situation, because at least from what I've seen, most Kickstarters, most successful ones, seem to have very clear goals set out. They say, hey, if we get to this milestone, we'll definitely put this in the game. If we get to that, then we'll put this in. It just seems like a more solid plan to go with, rather than, all right, am I going to put my faith in this?
right. Yeah. I don't necessarily like the pay-as-you-go system, because, I don't know, to me that's way too much like DLC, and just like Vespatine was talking about the Sims expansions.
Oh my gosh.
In that you're basically continuing to buy part of the game, and sure, you're not paying for the full thing, but if you pay for every update, like that was something proposed in the super early days of Minecraft, was if you bought it in alpha, you had the whole game. If you bought it in super late beta or on release, you had to buy the updates. And so we all bought it in alpha because we didn't want to buy updates. That never became a thing, but that it's like, you buy a game nowadays with day 0 DLC, you buy a game and then unlock XY feature. As soon as it's released, you already have to pay $5 or $10 more for this hat or whatever.
I never knew about that, but that sounds totally ridiculous. I didn't go through with that at all.
Yeah, Mojang have had some weird ideas for Minecraft, and they're, I don't know. I'm trying to. I'm just not a huge fan of pay-as-you-go, because same thing. I mean, it's same thing with my stance on MMOs. When I buy a game, I want to buy a game. I don't want to buy the ability to buy a game. If I were gonna do that, I'd go buy a console, because it's like, oh, I pay for an internet connection. I mean, I don't literally in my current living situation, but just as a general idea, I pay for an internet connection. I pay for power. I pay for my TV. I bought my TV. Now I bought a small little computer to play video games on. Oh look, I need to pay to access the internet over my internet on this small little computer. Then I must buy the game. And they've even had some games with subscriptions on consoles. So you're paying for Xbox Live, you're paying for the game, you're paying for the game subscription. Why do you need that much money for a game when other games are going to offer you a full game for $60?
Yeah, someone, I forget who it was exactly, but someone mentioned that they get a penny pincher vibe from me, and you were totally correct, and I don't take that as an insult at all. I know you didn't, or it didn't seem like you intended it as an insult, but I'm not going to pay that much money. The only MMOs that, and I only say that because you mentioned it, the only MMOs that I have spent a lot of time playing were ones that were gifted to me, which were a one-time purchase, like Guild Wars 2, or free-to-play MMOs. I mean, I did, like, RuneScape and various things back in the day, but I was not about to pay a subscription for a game that's just not compatible with my interests or my bank account.
Yeah. And so in the end, sure, smart thinking is obviously going to be the best way to go about making early access purchases, but it's going to be that same thinking that leads you away from making any early access purchases. And
which is a good thing to me.
well, yeah, like in general,
to a penny pincher.
But if it were a AAA dev and they were, you know, straightforward about everything and you did your research and whatever, it honestly wouldn't be a problem. It's just like early access betas. I mean, a lot of games now are coming out with early betas, and those are totally free, however, and then you buy the game later. This is basically, hey, buy it in beta, and you buy it to buy it. You know, like pre-ordering it, basically. You pre-order it, get the beta.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, except you're actually getting a beta instead of just a public demo that they call a beta. However, the issues come in when developers, like, I know there were issues with games like Rust and
Rust.
the War Z and Daisy, maybe not Daisy, the War Z, Rust, all those stupid zombie survival games where they would literally, you know, I'm not pointing specifics because I don't remember the exact stories, but it was a general vibe that was going on. They would just kind of put stuff in the game that would never happen. Or they'd say things were in the game that didn't happen. Or they'd say just generally that it was a full release and it wasn't. And people are misled because while sure, yes, we can do our critical thinking, we can do our research, we're not the masses buying games. The masses buying early access games, the people who are going to jump at games, are mostly little children that... Not children per se, but a lot younger people who are easily misled by the misleading information about the games on early access.
Frankly, the whole Greenlight trends didn't even pop up on my radar until you said anything. I mean, one, because I ignore anything that I have to spend money on, but two, I never really understood why you would do a Greenlight thing when betas and alphas exist.
Right.
And the state of betas and alphas in many other games is absolutely insane at the moment. How there are just so many issues within them to where they're unplayable. I don't know. I'm not going to spend money on anything that I am not certain about. I'm not certain that I'm going to be able to play reliably, that I won't be able to have a good time.
Right.
If I have any uncertainty with that, then of course I'm not going to buy it.
And I want to bring up early access is a bit different than Greenlight. When I originally posed the question, I said Greenlight as well for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Greenlight's not really that relevant here. I'll touch on that in a bit before we end the video.
Yeah.
But I totally agree. I think the big issue is that, which is the problem entirely, but developers realize that, or you know, some of the smaller developers realize that they may never finish their game. And if they hand out free betas, then there's also a long-running trend of a lot of things just staying in beta forever and living in beta. And while this is great for players, that kind of sucks for developers because they then never sell their game. So why hand out free betas when you can just sell your game in beta state and never have an obligation to finish it?
I guess, well...
And again, that's the problem. That's just kind of their state of mind.
I was just thinking about long-term image. Like, if you're going to treat games like that, then your long-term image is going to be compromised. But as you said earlier, a lot of these people aren't really big developers.
Right.
So.
And that's just a general issue of things always being in beta, though. And I guess that'll be kind of my second topic for the next episode, is what you all think about the general state of betas at the moment. And I'll touch on it a little bit more in a little bit, but we have plenty of games that just hide behind the beta tag.
It's still in beta.
Even though they've been in beta forever. Like Warface. Warface just launched on Steam. Nowhere in the official titling or descriptions does the game say beta. If you open the game, it doesn't have Warface beta, any sort of watermarks that say beta, this game's still in development, anything like that. The only place it's at is in the development logs. So anytime we complain about it, oh, it's only in beta. Well, no, it launched on Steam. It's a game you can go get on Steam. It says it's Warface. You're acquiring the game. It's not beta anymore. But we've become so accustomed, or you know, this is bringing us to be more accustomed to games just existing in unfinished states, and that's not okay. And I feel like this trend might have started with Minecraft simply because it was in beta so long, But the difference between Minecraft and other games in beta is Minecraft was a playable game in beta. The only thing that honestly, after like a certain point, the only thing that made it a beta, which is still the case in full release, is that they just kept developing on it. Like, they did what a developer we would actually appreciate did, and kept releasing updates for it and kept releasing content. And so eventually they were like, all right, it's just Minecraft version 1 now. It's released, we're still going to keep updating it. And Minecraft at release versus Minecraft now and Minecraft when the new version comes out in a couple weeks are drastically different games, but they stopped hiding behind this mystical beta tag to defend any bugs when every game's going to have bugs. It's still your obligation to fix them, which apparently the Elder Scrolls didn't do.
Honey, we don't want to start another flame war.
Anyway. And then just to touch on, since I did screw that up in my question, Greenlight's basically just, hey, we want this game to come on Steam, show Steam and Valve that enough people don't hate our concept, and we'll let our game be on Steam, and we'll get it on Steam. And that's not so bad, like, I'm sure very few people actually spend time going through all the different game trailers and hitting, yes, I would like to see this game, yes, I would like to see this game, yes, but it's not necessarily, like, it doesn't hurt anybody other than if people are losing out on getting on Steam because they can't get through Greenlight, but yeah. Because that's actually another thing, is actual publishers who publish nothing but like Walmart $5 bin point-and-click adventure games are now mass dumping them on Steam and filling up Steam new release pages from like games from like 5 to 10 years ago, and yet guys making actual good developed indie games can't get on Steam because they can't get enough Greenlight likes because nobody cares enough to go to Greenlight.
See, I thought that, I'm sorry, I just want to clarify with you now. I thought that's what Greenlight was, just, clicking, yes, I want to see this, yes, I want to see this. But the way you mentioned it before made me think, oh, maybe I'm missing a whole different concept here.
No.
Alright, I see.
So to wrap everything together and actually apparently tie directly into my question for next week about the state of betas in our gaming industry at the moment and market, I guess my biggest issue with early access is that it's not an alpha or beta program. It's an early access program. Typically, like we actually have a game box up here for Guild Wars 2. Typically early access means you have early access to the game. Like, you pre-order it, you get, if you pre-order it and give them money sooner, you get into the game sooner. Early access. Nowhere in anything rarely does it say beta, and most games don't actually say beta, so it's early access to Rust. Oh, I get to buy it now, and they may have to fix a couple things, but I get early access into the game, not, oh, you're testing a barely playable state of a beta of a game. And like almost the entire concept and the title of the concept is very misleading, in my opinion.
No, I think so too. I'm just saving comments for...
Right. And so that's what I kind of think. So my question for you all then is, betas in general on games, what do you think about so many games basically hiding behind the beta tag and never truly finishing? And obviously, again, this doesn't directly apply to AAA games so much as smaller games. But I mean, Warface, like I was talking about, that's developed by Crytek. They put out Crysis. They used the and they made the Cry engine, which goes in a lot of games. They're a full-fledged AAA developing publishing house. Why? And published by EA. Why is that game like 2 years old now, still in beta, and still a piece of crap? Oh, what do y'all think?
So harsh about things.
Let me know in the comment section below, and either I or both of us will address it next week in Forum Friday. Thank you very much for watching yet again, and we made it a bit shorter than last week.
Yay!
And we will talk to y'all next time. Bye-bye. This video was made possible by contributions to our Patreon campaign by viewers like you. Thank you.